My name is Andrew Blum. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Peace and Justice here within the Kroc School of Peace Studies. The Institute for Peace and Justice for the next 6 weeks are hosting a cohort of 25 Mandela Washington Fellows for Young African Leaders, the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders. It's part of the Young African Leaders Initiative. So right off the bat, I want to thank our partner IREX and the support of the State Department for both the overall program and for their support of the University of San Diego. At the Institute for Peace and Justice and at the University of San Diego more broadly, what we do is support changemakers. We support them, we learn with them, we try to understand how we can all create positive social change in the world. And that's why we're so excited to be hosting these 25 fellows. 25 fellows that are focused on business and social entrepreneurship. They're here developing their own ideas that they're going to take back to their community. They're developing their leadership skills. You're going to hear 4 amazing stories from 4 of our fellows tonight. But there's 21 other amazing stories. And so maybe, after tonight, stick around. We'll have cookies and coffee outside. And meet some of the other fellows that are here tonight as well. On the 6-week institute overall, we're partnering with our amazing partner, San Diego Diplomacy Council, and they've really been instrumental in setting up this evening as well. Tonight, we're also partnering with the Startup Show San Diego, which is an online publication that really showcases the startup scene here in San Diego. Our fellows had an amazing time down at Startup Week San Diego, and this is just an extension of the bridges we're trying to build between our fellows and the startup community in San Diego. And so what's great is Startup Show San Diego is filming this tonight for their show. So you all are the live studio audience for the filming that's going on tonight. We don't have any applause signs or anything like that, no laugh tracks or anything like that, but you all are the live studio, the studio audience. So in a little while, I'll bring up Eric Westrike, who's going to be moderating, and our panelists as well. But first, just fortuitously, our connection at the United States State Department, Angela Woods, is here. She's doing a grand tour of many of the institutes and universities that are hosting Washington Mandela Fellows. And she's really been instrumental in the program overall, a huge ally for us here at the University of San Diego. So I wanted to let her say a few words to us. She's a program officer within the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. I knew I was going to get that wrong. At the United States State Department. So help me welcome Angela.
Thank you, Andy. And as he mentioned, my name is Angela Woods, and I'm here representing the U.S. Department of State, which is actually sponsoring the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program. Our Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, our mission is to create mutual understanding between the people of the U.S. and those of other countries. And we do that through exchange programs, such as the Mandela Washington Fellowship. So we send Americans overseas to a variety of different countries, as well as bring in students and professionals from different countries here to the U.S., really to learn about each other, to learn about different cultures. We have a variety of exchange programs under academic exchange programs, cultural exchange programs, as well as even sports exchanges. And again, all of these are helped to build mutual understanding, to learn from each other and start to break down barriers. So I'm very happy to be here today. I want to thank the University of San Diego and their partnership with managing the institute here at the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program. As was mentioned previously, there are 25 fellows here. However, they are part of a larger cohort of 1,000 young African leaders who are here in the U.S. At 38 different colleges and universities across the country. So these are really great group of fellows who we're hoping are going to do great things back in their country. So the overall goal of this fellowship is for them to learn best practices here in the US of how we do things and to learn from one another. We're also hoping that the instructors that are engaging with them, the community members that are engaging with them, will also learn from them. They're doing really great things already in Africa, and as you start to meet and interact with a lot of these fellows, they are entrepreneurs. They have many businesses already in their countries and hoping to establish more. So really happy that you guys have a chance to interact with them. If you don't have a chance to connect today, as Andy mentioned, they will be here throughout the next 5 weeks, so hopefully you'll have an opportunity to engage with them. But again, I'm happy to be here with you all today, and thank you for your support of this program.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. I'd like now to invite up both our panelists and Eric Westreich, who's going to be moderating. How this is going to work, Eric's going to moderate them through some Ignite talks, which are 5-minute quick talks that get some energy in the room. And then you'll have some chance for some Q&A, and then we'll all be able to sort of interact a little bit out over some coffee and cookies. So that's the run of show for tonight, but with no further ado, Eric, and also
Thank you. Excited to be here. I'm Eric Westreich. I'm the host, executive producer of startup show San Diego, which is a startup company that works really hard to bring together the San Diego startup community with the idea of you have good people get together to solve some of our toughest problems. So a lot in common with what we're doing here tonight. Also, we're the founder of Big Story Consulting. So what we do is provide free tools and some free training to help teach small organizations to tell big stories, basically get big stories heard. So I'm excited that we have some big stories here, some really big stories. In fact, this itself is a really big story, so we're excited to do that. Tonight's format is really to hear some stories, but I was told quite emphatically by everybody that you're part of the big story. So they want to hear from you. So the way it goes is we'll give some talks right in a row, about 5 minutes apiece. Then I'll ask some questions, and we will open the questions as long as people want to go. They not only want to hear your questions, but your opinions. So I'm excited to explore this concept of how do you initiate community change through leadership. And our leaders up here are going to tell us that. And kind of in the discussions that we had, they're really kind of listening to them and putting together, so I hope I got this right. One of the things we're looking at is how do you get a community in the same direction? Because without everybody going in the same direction, you don't really go anywhere. People are going 10 directions. So if you want to be your community leader in education or manufacturing or being the electric vehicle capital of the world, and this is whether it's geographic or a virtual community, how do you set goals and get people to do common goals? So we've got some people who've set some really good goals here, and I'm going to ask their opinion on how you do that. The second question we're going to ask, and I got some nice insights by Philip Osei, Bonsu, on that, talking about, for one thing, he's very interested in brain power over natural resources. So how do you set goals to apply that brain power against? The other question that we're asked is, if you can get, like let's say we got this room agreeing to do anything together, which is hard itself, as Andy knows, just trying to get this thing together. How do you get people to work together toward that goal? So we're going to use the brain power we have here to ask that question, is how do you get the same systems, tools, things like that. And Tabitha Shikiku actually gave some real insights in terms of servant leadership and how you use those methods to get people to actually work together. And then, let's say we got everybody in this room to agree we're going the same place. We agree to actually how we're going to work together. How do you bring in new ideas and test them? Because let's face it, all new ideas are not good ideas. And an idea that works in one place or with one group doesn't work. So we had some really interesting talks with Nicholas Kamanzi, who really talked about innovation and things like that. So he's got some very interesting ideas that I'm interested to hear more about in terms of that. And then finally, if we could actually get everybody working in the same direction together, getting new ideas, how do we harness the brain power? The panel made it very clear that they all thought everybody's voice is important, no matter who you are or where you are. It might be an 86-year-old man in Kenya or a 12-year-old girl in Tokyo, doesn't matter. How do you get everybody's heard and how do you optimize and maximize all the great ideas? So without further ado, Philip's going to start us out, and he has 8 years of management and leadership experience. He's a founder and CEO of OBPR Consulting and a PR firm that specializes in media communications. He loves youth development through sharing knowledge and strategic networking. And when he is not using this brain power that we talked about, he's at the beach with his wife. So
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everybody. So as you heard, my name is Osei Bonsu. From Ghana, a country in West Africa, a country of 27 million people, doing some amazing stuff. And like other African countries, Ghana has been doing great. A stable democracy, consistent GDP growth. But I believe we can do more, like other African countries. How do we do it? That's the big question. And I want to start off my presentation with this very simple premise. So lawyer Kojoana Nankoma is a very popular lawyer in Ghana and an activist as well. And this quote is attributed to him. It says, "Brains develop a nation and not natural resources." And it's something I personally believe in. And I believe if Africa would make that giant step, this is where we would have to focus on. Because we are the most natural resource-rich continent in the world, and yet the poorest continent in the world. So to do that, what would it take? Very simple. I consider the mind, I consider time, I consider innovation, I consider investment. The mind, because we are in a knowledge economy. And to be able to earn more, you have to become more. How do you become more? You build your mind. How do you build your mind? You study, you learn. So the mind is crucial. Time, because I believe time is not money. So we have to challenge those conventional mindsets. I think time is more valuable than money because you can save money, but you cannot save time. So time is something the African should appreciate and know how important time is before we can make that progress. Innovation, because we need to solve problems creatively, the use of ICT, especially in agriculture. And investment, because I believe we can create $1 million Africans across our continent. How do we do it? We start now by investing, not saving. Because there is a difference between saving at the bank and investing in products that has compound interest that can grow and grow well. I believe Africa is on the verge of making history. And this is the reason. David Pellin with the Financial Times has this quote, that one of the great structural changes of the coming decades will be the huge relative shift of the global population to Africa. And there's a reason why. The reason is very simple, because as we speak, Africa has 1 billion people on that continent, roughly the same as Europe and the Americas. The good news is that the other continents have stopped growing, and Africa is still growing. We are estimated to hit 4 billion out of the world's 11 billion people by 2000. And those are figures from the United Nations. The other thing with this statistic is that Africa currently has the youngest population in the world. There are 200 million Africans between the ages of 15 and 24. And that, I think, is the game changer for Africa. We have a median age currently of 20, when we compare that to Europe with 43. So Africa has what the Asian tigers had in the 1940s. We just have to harness that talent and make sure we move to the next level. By 2035, more than half of all new job seekers in the world will be Africans. And that is something that should engage our mind as a continent. The statistics looks good, but it's a problem as well. The problem is that because a lot of our population are youthful, they are likely breeding grounds for insurgency and terrorism. So how do we stop that? Unemployment is a major issue on the continent. People under 25 account for 60% of the total unemployment figures in sub-Saharan Africa. In my country, Ghana, 48% of Ghanaians between the ages of 15 and 24 do not have jobs. And that's according to the World Bank. The biggest problem in Africa and in Ghana can be summed up in one word: jobs. So we need to create jobs, and we have to do that creatively. So I think that we need to drive economic growth with inclusion. How do we include the youth in the economic growth we seek? We have to invest in skills and education in the youth, and education that equips them with entrepreneurial skills, with the right and relevant skills for the job market. So what I do with my organization is to organize 2 summits. The first summit is the beginning of the year right summit. We do that every 1st January. What we do basically with that is to help the youth set the right goals and to help them develop life plans. Because I think that is the only way out of the situation. Secondly, we organize the Regional Youth Entrepreneurship Summit. And that's what we do on the 1st of July. We partner with the Secondary Takwadi Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Sky Media Group. So we're able to pick it live on TV and then on radio. STCCI provides internship opportunities for some of the youth who patronize our event. So basically with the Entrepreneurship Summit, we identify business opportunities to help them do that and all the other things there. Remember, the 2 events are free and are live on radio and then on TV. So those are some pictures of the beginning of the year right summit in 2017. That's the Regional Youth Entrepreneurship Summit for 2016. We're privileged to have the man in the right corner there. He's currently the Deputy Minister of Energy in Ghana, so it was a huge thing. I want to end by referring you to a quote that always makes me smile, and I think that is what, as African youth, should engage our minds. It's a nice way to think about selflessness and giving back to society, sacrificing to make society better. So a candle loses nothing by lighting the flame of another. It's a quote attributed to James Keller, and I believe as youth of this great continent, when we're able to work together, when we're able to pool resources together, we can make our continent better. God bless Ghana, God bless Africa, God bless the Union of San Diego, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Philip. And you can see Philip on startupshowsd.com and on our YouTube channel, Startup Show San Diego. So if you go to YouTube, go to Startup Show San Diego, we'll have everything. You can also see Tony Boucher's interview with Fabian Perla, the executive director, is, I think, already up there. If not, it'll be up there soon. So this should be up by the end of this week, most likely next week at the latest. All right, next we have Tabitha Shikiku. She believes more in anything in servant leadership. So her model is basically the idea of hiking up a mountain, bringing people with her with credibility, leadership, and authority. She studied certified public accounting as a member of the ICPAK, studying a bachelor's degree in business management and majoring in finance, and she's also passionate about visiting local schools and distributing clothes and other resources to students. And if anybody wants to go hiking for real, not just figuratively, but reality, she said she's ready.
before I start my presentation, I know everybody's tired and I'm so stressed up. I'd like everybody to stand up. Just 1 second. Thank you. And just stretch yourself. It feels good, yeah? Can you have a seat? So where I'm coming from, most of my leaders, they love this phrase, walk the talk. I'm not sure if they know the meaning of the talk, and that's what brings me to my presentation today, servant leadership. What comes to your mind when you hear the word servant leader? Anybody? Okay, so when I was attending my interview, Mandela Washington Fellow, the first question stated, who's a leader? Are leaders born or made? And what are the qualities of a servant leader? So for me, having the ability to uplift someone who's less privileged and knowing that I play a hand towards their success, it gives me a profound feeling and motivates me to enhance my leadership skills. Having the ability to inspire somebody in a positive way and knowing that you've done that, this is something that inspires me. So I'll give you a quote which Nelson Mandela stated. A leader is like a shepherd who leads others like fox, letting the most nimble go ahead, whereupon others follows, not realizing all along that they're being directed from behind. There are more ways to lead and to serve. For me, being a servant leader starts with a natural feeling that I want to serve. The conscious choice that aspires me to lead, and the difference manifested itself in the sense that I want to give back to the community. Have you ever had a general conversation with somebody, and then afterwards they're like, oh, thank you so much for what you've done. And here you are thinking, oh, what have I done to this person? Remember, it's not what you've done to this person. Basically, your words of encouragement, your presence has uplifted this somebody in a positive way. So there are many examples of leaders in this community. I'll give you examples of Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, just to mention but a few. These are well-renowned leaders who inspire us. Looking at us fellows, we have example Enoch, he's from Ethiopia, he's empowering youth through tutoring. We have Joseph from South Sudan, he's running a youth peace environment. Now these are leaders who have inspired me and all of you in who you are today. In terms of my career, my profession-wise, and having a sense of belonging. What am I trying to say here? Servant leadership focuses primarily on the growth of others and for the community. You don't just sit and accept the title of a leader. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way where I'm coming from. Basically, you have to empower others in the sense that they see that you're making sense to the community. Martin Luther King said, we can all serve, we can all lead. But again, you need love, compassion, and care to serve others. I have two questions that I'd like to ask. What do you aspire to see in terms of your community? And what leadership qualities do you want to address to your community? I'll leave you with a quote from Mother Teresa, which she says, I can do what you can do, and you can do what I can do, but together we can do great things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tabitha. So we've seen what could happen if we aligned with the right goals to put the brain power. And we've seen how, using servant leadership, we can get people to work together. The next question is, how do we bring in new ideas and keep them going? And at this point, I'd like to thank Tony Boucher, who we mentioned before. He set up startup shows, San Diego's participation in that. So I'd like to thank that. So to talk about innovation, we have Nicholas Kamanzi. And while Philip likes to be at the beach and Tabitha likes to be on the mountains, Nicholas likes to jump off the mountain. So if you want to know what bungee jumping is like at the source of the Nile, he would be the one to ask.
I told Erin she was going to be in this. So my name is Nicholas, and I've had the pleasure to meet Erin's mom. I told Erin she's going to be in this, she didn't believe me. So this is us with Dr. Harris. And we look so serious because of the firm handshake Dr. Harris had. I don't know if anyone felt that. But we're also proud of like some of the work that, and we are sharing some of the work that we are doing with him. And he was also sharing some of the work that he's doing. And I'm here today to talk to you about value innovation and the whole idea of how you move from value to create new things. I have a background of starting a few companies. I started Uber for Dirty Laundry in Uganda, whereby someone just shows up and does your laundry. I'm now focused on building like a Venmo for businesses. I know Venmo is a big thing right here. So we enable businesses, most especially small businesses, to kind of pay each other. So what is the industry that you're working in, and what are you working on? What are some of your goals? So usually we don't. When I asked this guy over here in a wedding suit what his industry is, he told me it was tutoring, and when that is Enoch, by the way. And then on the other side is Ugo from Nigeria, and what Ugo does is free screening for refugees. And right here you can see someone is trying to read, right? So they try to give them the right lenses to enable them to read. So looking across these two industries, you see Ugo is trying to solve an eye problem. Enoch is trying to solve an education problem. So Enoch has like a marketplace for education where you get a tutor to come and teach you like a specific course. And so if I asked Enoch, I asked him, what do you want, what is your goal? And he told me, I want to like scale this across Africa. So I want to make it as big as it can be. And then when I asked Ugo, she told me, I want to like be the best in the, like around Nigeria. I want to do this for more people. I want to impact more lives. But if Ugo was to go away and say, what is some of the value that I'm not capturing? See, this person right here is trying to read. And there is a partnership between Ugo and Enoch, much as they are all from different industries. So last night I was thirsty, so I went out to get something to drink, and I saw this parrot. I've never had it before, so I took the fruit punch, and I hated it. Swear to God. I hated it. It's actually in the fridge, if anyone wants it. You can have it. I hated it because the need at that time was, I was thirsty, right? And I didn't take the time to read. I know the people who made this product made it specifically for, I've worked out, I need protein, I can have this drink. But I didn't think through that. So if you look at your industry and say, I'm Shade, I'm doing maybe tourism, yeah? So why do people go for vacations? Why do people actually pay for a package? Because if you look at a vacation, there's other alternatives. And those are some of the industries that you can disrupt as Shade. You can say, okay, so I'm very good at putting together tours for people. How can I go ahead and now disrupt maybe the massage parlors? Maybe that is an alternative, right? So just look beyond, you might be a kite surfer in Cape Verde, this is El Menio. See, people will not come to the beach when it is dirty, right? And I know you've been exploring this idea. So if you also capture that value and say, hey, I'm going to clean my beach so that when tourists come to visit, they actually find a very clean beach. But if you're starting out, you're not thinking, okay, so we get stuck in our industries and say, I'm in education, everything I'm doing is going to be education. But there's all these trends around that you can tap into and turn your business into something really, really big. So this is something that you can, whether you're working in finance, what are some of the things, what is some of the value that you see in your industry that you're taking for granted? And how can you build that out into something? So Thomas Edison didn't set out to build a light bulb. He set out to build a way of converting electricity into something that you can see. And the light bulb was the end product. It wasn't a problem at the start. It was, how can we use this electricity that we have to show something? The manifestation, the end product, was so nice, we use it all the time, we take it for granted right now. And so there's all these industries that are around us that we take for granted. In our case, we started out doing laundry, and then because the margins were very small, we had these two contracts, one with a major telco and another with a detergent company, right? So we spinned out, now we are doing data for market research for the detergent company, and that is a revenue source. And we're doing payments for businesses, and that is another revenue source, on top of the laundry business. So look for those things that you take for granted and figure out a way to disrupt those industries. So this slide is for you, and I want you to take a minute. The more our population increases, the less the resources. Because every time there's less resources and the numbers are just growing, as Philip pointed out. The only way we can build a sustainable society is to dramatically improve the amount of value that we can capture. That is the only way. Every customer wants to buy more for less. No one wants to pay more. Like, I hate power rent now. Right? So everyone wants to pay less for more. So you should be thinking, how can I add more value? How can I bring them in? And how can I lock them in so that they cannot look to the next? Why should I come to Cape Verde? Why should I use your organization? Because you have an all-round solution. Microsoft and Apple are all working on the same product. Microsoft was focused on mostly the features, and Apple was focused on the customers. They're all doing an education platform. But see, one is more, can we create more value for our customers? The other is, how can we give them more features? Hands down, Microsoft was beating them with the features and the product, but they beat it because they created more value for the customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicholas. So we kind of explored how do we get everybody going in the same direction, how and the use of brain power, how do we get them to work together toward that direction, how do we get new ideas, bring them in, evaluated, and in this case, how do you get more out of those ideas to get more than you thought you had in the first place. Before we do go on, I want to thank Startup Show San Diego is a public outreach, so a lot of what we do is volunteers. I want to thank Ramel Cabal, who's filming for us. Just like Tony, Ramel is a leader in their own right. He basically helps with student entrepreneurs over at San Diego State University, running the club and bringing them in and helping them bridge the gap between the university and the rest of the startup community. You can also get his startup life hacks and go view him online with that. So where do we have left? We've got going in the right direction, everyone's working together, we're bringing in new ideas. So how do we take advantage of everybody, the whole population, regardless of who they are, and take advantage of that? Somebody with a unique perspective and a powerful perspective is Mesturah Shittu. While Philip likes to be at the beach, and Tabitha likes to be in the mountains, and Nicholas likes to jump off mountains, Mesturah likes to invent games to get her kids to do housework, and it works. So if you want to know how to engage all people of all sizes to get them and leverage them, she can provide some interesting insights of that. She also is a carpenter with over 10 years of experience in furniture and interior design, won Premium Quality Interior Design Awards, and she's passionate about coaching and empowering people, specifically domestic abused women, gender equality and gender justice. So, Mesturah.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mesturah Shittu. I'm a lady carpenter. I'm a life coach, a mother of 2 adorable kids, and an advocate for women. I'll be speaking on global issues on women empowerment. In every country of the world, women face discrimination. We face crisis. We face a lot of issues that we can't even answer. Why are we facing this? I'm sure your guess is as good as mine. We face all this because we're just women. Men feel that we are meant to be seen and not to be heard. Some men in Africa, they believe that women are meant to be relegated to the kitchen and not to be seen in the office. Hillary Clinton said in one of her speeches that women are key drivers of economic growth. She said, investing in women is not only the right thing to do. She said, it is the smart thing to do. And I want everybody to think about this statement. It is indeed the smart thing to do. Statistics shows that 60% of women living in the world are living in extreme poverty, and also 1 out of 3 women are going to be abused in their lifetime. Standing before you is a 2-time rape. I've been raped twice, and also I was abused by the person I call the love of my life. I was abused, I was molested, I was raped, and to crown it all, he poisoned me. He wants me dead. He wants another woman to take care of my kids. But here I am, standing before these beautiful people. Women empowerment refers to the creation of an enabling environment for women to thrive and make their own decisions for their personal benefits and for the society. Women should be empowered so that they can live lives with a sense of worth, respect, and dignity, so that we can participate in political activities and hold public offices, and not the general African belief that women are meant to be in the kitchen. Also, women should be empowered so that domestic violence can reduce when they are educated and also have access to information. My experiences made me found an initiative called Woman, Live Your Dream. Now, woman in this context is an acronym for women organized to make abuse non-existent. Now, abuse in Africa, abuse in all over the world. This is what I stand for. At Women Live Your Dream Initiative, what do? We teach women to break the silence. We create safe place where women can talk about their issues. I bet you, men don't understand what we are going through. I mean, they don't give birth. They're not menstruating like we do. We've got issues that only women can solve these problems. Also, we help build esteem and confidence for these battered women. They don't know how to go about their lives. We give them a safe place for them to pour out their minds. Also, we coach and mentor, and also we empower these women. Malala Yousafzai said, and I quote, "I raise my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that I can give voice to those without voice, so that they can be heard. And I, Mesturah, representing Nigeria, representing Africa, representing the whole women, that I raise my voice this evening, not so that I can shout, but that women without voice can be heard, so that their pain, their agony, their trauma, their tears can be heard of and put an end to it." Woman, I say to you all, it is time for us to break the silence. It is time for us to start talking and empower the women that cut across everywhere. It is important for us to talk. It is important for us to help that little girl in your neighborhood. It is important for you to help and give a helping hand for that woman struggling in your neighborhood. I end my presentation by saying, it is time for the world to listen. What are you saying? Thank you.
So now we're going to be asking the panelists, or I'll be asking the panelists for questions. And you should either be getting ready your handheld mics or your voices to speak loudly so that you can ask your questions and state your opinions. So the first question I have for the panelists is this. In making change with all the different people, how do you get people toward a common destination? You've all started your own companies or organizations. You've got people to line up. How do you get people lined up with a vision? Whoever wants to start.
Okay, so maybe I'll start. Basically, I think I'll take the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program as an example, and I think it's a fantastic way to start. I mean, when you take our cohort, we have some 1,000 people across 38 universities in the US, and that takes the figure of fellows so far to close to 3,000. And 3,000 on the African continent is huge. I mean, I believe revolution doesn't necessarily, and revolution here, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking of, the negative revolution. Any revolution should start at least with some few people who are really committed to a vision, who would want to move from A to B. So I think the awareness is one, raising the consciousness of the people is two, and that's where the issue of the mind will come in. So letting the people understand what is around them, where we want to go, and I think we don't really have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's been done elsewhere, so we can just tweak it a bit to suit our unique, the unique issues on our continent. And one other way is that if you take each fellow here, I mean, doing a little bit in his or her own corner, to impact at least 100 other youth in Africa. In 10 years, we can turn around the fortunes of our continent. And mind you, we have sub-regional bodies already who signed on to protocols and all of that, the AU, ECOWAS, COMESA, and all the other sub-regional bodies. So it's easy to work, you know, in groups in those sub-regional bodies, and the USAID and the other, you know, supporters are providing such platforms for us to get talking. So I think it's a process that is already, you know, in motion. We just have to make sure we give it a bit more momentum. And in 10 years' time, I bet you Africa would be a different continent.
Okay. So one of the things I'm hearing is that shared experience is a powerful tool. Just by the fact that people coming here getting shared experience. I'm interested in what Mesturah said, though. She said that sometimes we have very different ideas or backgrounds based on our culture or our gender. How do you bridge those gaps when you're trying to create a shared vision?
Well, for me, I bring my women together. I sell the common vision to them that this is what we're trying to achieve. Fine, they have different backgrounds, they have different experiences, but I sell the common goal to them, that we want a society, a community, where we don't hear of abuse, domestic violence, rape, or all sorts. So I try to sell the vision to them and also make them believe and buy into the vision. Then with this, they are all motivated to have a common goal and move on together.
And men are part of that issue too. So if you have challenges bringing the men with that vision too, or does that involve a different skill set?
Say that again, please.
To get the men to buy into that vision also, because we need to understand that too.
Well,
do you find that is a different skill set, or is it the same skill set but different?
Initially when I started, the men rejected the idea. They felt I'm teaching their women to leave their homes. But later on, I went to them and told them what we're trying to do. And also, I organized events for them, for a life coach to actually teach them how to manage women. There are a lot of emotional intelligence that these men lack. And also women, we lack emotional intelligence. So you can't build a good marriage without having emotional intelligence. So we try to bridge this gap and make sure that also these men understand what we are trying to do and they are on the same page with us.
I saw somebody ready at the mic there.
Yeah, so in my organizations, we have this idea of a North Star. And so on a micro level, how do you implement this? Maybe to like supplement. So we have a North Star. We say, how do we know this is working? Because you can try to, as much as possible, sell the idea, but people always read through the things that are not working. So we have a North Star and say, every week we have to hit. So it starts like in a year, this is where we want to be. And then we break it down to a 6-month level, and then on a weekly basis we review. So in Penex, the North Star is how many weekly transactions go through the system. So if that is not working, who is responsible for that not working? How can we help you as an individual in the organization to make that work? Who is not selling? Who is not, is the system down? Because we deal with technology. So if you have a common, like this is the one, everything can go wrong except this one thing. And we focus on growing that. And as much as that is growing, we don't care if the other things don't work out. So on a small level, that I think, be it empowerment, be it like innovation, be it whatever you're trying to do, be it leadership, you have to set that goal and say, this is where we want to be. And then break it down and hold yourselves accountable, maybe on a weekly, bi-weekly or monthly basis, to try and drive up to that.
The thing is, we all inspire community social change. And one way to enhance all this, we need to to have a common respect and a mutual agreement, in the sense that we are not just leading others in the sense of powering them, but we are leading them in the sense that we are empowering them to a common goal.
Thank you. So Nicholas brought up a kind of interesting point, which leads us to the next question. If we all can get on a common wavelength, a common destination, how do you get a bunch of people to work together to do it? What systems, tools, process? So Nicholas, you brought up the idea of actually linking the North Star, which is the destination, with the system of measurement and who does what and doing specific goals. What other systems, tools, processes, methods do you use to get a bunch of people actually moving toward that goal after you've convinced them or got a shared vision?
So of course there's also the basic things. People will not take care of the North Star if they're not well taken care of. So you need to take care of the people so that they can take care of the North Star. And that can be like maybe giving them shareholding in the company, or like taking care of your employees so that they can be able to work so hard, to put in the time and to go above and beyond to make sure maybe your product succeeds. Taking care of them, I think, is what I would say maybe. So.
Yeah, but I think, excuse me, and again, the problems on our continent alone is enough to bring us all together around a common vision. I mean, if there is erratic power supply in Ghana, it's the same in Nigeria, it's the same in Togo, and across the continent. So if the youth of the continent should say enough is enough, I mean, we would want to move our continent from A to B. That is a good starting point. So I think, yes, the convergence really would be the problems on the continent. And around those problems, we can begin to innovate, to say, yes, we've had experiences in Europe, we've had experiences in America, and we are coming down to implement those, innovative ideas to make sure we turn. Because I've told friends that, yes, as a cohort, we're building bonds. And the bonds we build should not only bring us together, it should also hold our promise. And the promise is for a better continent. The promise is to see Africa move on. The promise is to end disease, to end hunger, to make sure our youth are educated and educated well. So I think that promise alone is enough to really drive a wave of revolution across the continent.
So the question, Philip, and I agree with you, so 1,000 youth show up at your door tomorrow. They say, we see the vision. You are exactly right. Yes. What do we do next? Great. To give them the tool to take the next step. Is it through an organization? Is it through a software app like Nicholas can do for us? How do you start people understanding where, in other words, where do they get the roadmap of where they start, where they go, and where they are?
It's a great question. And I think that's where leadership counts, and leadership at all levels. So leadership from political leadership, leadership from us as youth leaders, and all of that. So once the vision is set, and when we got here or to USD, a small book was handed over to us, and the book said, "Innovative ideas live here." When you turn the back page of that book, there is a fantastic quote which says, "Every change should begin with an idea and the decision to take action." So yes, we have the idea, we want to move Africa from here to there. How do we then move on, as you asked? I think political leadership has a role to play in making sure that they chart a particular course that will take us there. Because you still need the people to revolve around a particular vision, and there should be a vision bearer. So yes, the political leadership would be that vision bearer, and then they will draw all of us along. Because once we know where we are going to, then we know what we can all do, the part we can all play to be able to get there. So I'm looking at Africa's economic growth should continue growing to be able to include all the youth. And now we are posting some fantastic figures, from all countries in terms of the statistics of economic growth. We just have to continue, make sure that we add value to our natural resources to expand our various economies so the youth will be able to have a part to play in the new Africa.
Okay, I'm going to ask our women leaders here their opinions on how you get all your people moving the same. But I want people ready with their questions, because based on time, we're going to bring that. Sometimes the first question is hard, so let's not wait to get that question out. I see it's already ready, so we'll get you right after we get them. So our women leaders on the panel, how do you get a bunch of people moving and tracking?
Well, for me, part of what we discussed yesterday with my fellows there was it is high time we hold ourselves accountable. Accountability is very, very key in moving Africa forward. Then also I suggested that in our own little way, we've learned leadership, we've learned different stuff on cultural beliefs and all that. In our own little way, in our own little corner, I want us here, all the fellows, to take everything we've learned back home. Now, I was asking them yesterday that, how do we change Africa? We know our problems, we've been complaining about them, but what we concluded on yesterday was, we can achieve this if and only if each and every one of us are contributing in our own communities. We are not just taking everything here back home and you're using it for yourself alone. You are using it for your community. You are sharing your ideas. You are teaching people so that they too can also become leaders.
So according to my topic, the servant's leadership, there are so many leadership styles that we know. But when it comes to this servant's leadership, it's the sense that you're putting your community first. So if Africa, all of us, we can implement that system in the sense that we are taking care of our community. We are having, we put love, care, and compassion towards seeing the change. I mean, everything will move to the right direction.
Great. So from our audience, who are you and what's your question or comment?
Hello. Hi, my name is Nancy, and I just wanted to thank you guys for sharing so much of your personal experiences of leadership. I guess my question was, I think one of you had mentioned one of the biggest obstacles facing African youth was joblessness. What would you say, in your opinion, is the second biggest obstacle?
So I said, yes, Africa's problem can be summed up in one word, that's jobs. The second, I think, would be education, to make sure that we educate our people, because there is a coherence, between having quality education that provides the right skills, relevant skills for the labor market. That's what is really lacking. There is a disconnect between what students are taught in school and what's available on the job market. So yes, to solve the joblessness problem, you need to fix the education. And so yes, I think that's the second most important thing. And that's where some of us come in, to make sure that we add a little bit of value to the education some of the youth have gotten. Because yes, they've been through schools and some of them see entrepreneurship as like a big, huge, difficult thing. So we have to come in and demystify the concept of entrepreneurship through the summits we organize, exposing them to the opportunities, how to write a business proposal, how to source funding, and all of that. So I think once we continue on that path, things will change.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else on the panel?
Yeah, Uganda, I think it's corruption. So mismanagement of maybe funds is also like one of the highest. Yeah.
Anyone else on the panel?
Yeah, for me, in Nigeria, challenge is corruption and also education. we need to, I was sharing with someone this morning the kind of education we get in Nigeria. I think it's high time we change our syllabus. Back home, they teach us things that they've done probably 20, 30 years ago. And you don't expect what is happening or what happened 30 years ago to be applicable to us now. So for me, for us in Nigeria, corruption is very key. It's one of our challenges. Then also the quality of education. And I feel the solution in terms of the education is the education sector should probably change the curriculum and teach us entrepreneurship. We shouldn't, I read industrial chemistry, for instance, and now I'm a carpenter. I mean, they're two far worlds apart. But I didn't kill my creativity. I didn't kill my innovation because I read chemistry. Yes, I read chemistry, but here I am, I'm thriving in my business. So I think back home, we should endeavor to encourage entrepreneurship. And I believe with this, we'll move Africa forward.
Thank you. I think we have a question over to the right and person ahead.
You mentioned, two of you mentioned that corruption is a huge problem, and we've certainly seen that in our travels, that the youth get very, very discouraged. They may start a business and then find that they're told that they owe all of these different licenses and this, that, and the other, and only the government official can help them to get them, etc. So corruption seems to be a harder challenge than is education in some ways. How do you suggest reducing corruption?
So, I mean, the question maybe to repeat it for the guys who recording. No. So how do we reduce corruption? I think there's little we can do. That is the shortest answer, because the guys who are corrupt are the guys in power, the guys who pass the policy. So I think from an outsider perspective is just try to improve whatever you're doing as much as you can, and hopefully, I mean, we can't change a government once it is already in power. The only way we can do it is if we can change the mindsets of whoever we touch. So I employ maybe 300 people, and how can those people learn about these realities? And so if we have 4,000, we shall have 4,000 fellows at the end of this. How can they also now? They all impact like different people, 100,000. So, I mean, time is in our favor, that's the other thing, right? So we are going to implement things, and if we are very honest with ourselves and touch as many people as possible, chances are, at the end of the day, we get to choose what happens. But right now, yes, the shortest answer is nothing we can do.
I would want to respectfully disagree with my brother. And the reason is simple. I mean, how do you fight corruption? One effective way of fighting corruption is through exposure, to expose it. Because corruption happens in darkness. So once there is sunlight, once there is light, corruption would vanish. In Ghana, for instance, there are over 300 radio stations in Ghana with over 40 TV stations, so a very vibrant media. And that's one way to effectively fight corruption. Beyond that, I mean, as individuals, we all have Facebook accounts, we are live, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. So once you have an account, you can also help in the fight by exposing corrupt officials, you know, naming and shaming them and all of that. So yes, there is more we can do. Beyond that is also the personal example, because it has symbolic value. So what do you do in your closet? What do you do when no eye is watching you? So once you also set that personal example, it has a cascading effect, you know, on others who are around you. So I think as youth, there is more we can do in that fight. But I agree with my brother, it's more of an entrenched systemic problem. So it might take something more at the top as well. But yes, it should be a bottom-up approach. That's what I believe. The leaders would have to also lead by example, because when you have a president who shows clearly that he's not corrupt, it also has a way of influencing his appointees and the entire country to move in that same direction. So there is more we can do as you.
Well, for me, I would say our mindset. I'm a life coach, and one of the things I tell people, everything happens in our mind. It's easier for us to point accusing fingers to our leaders that they are corrupt, but these leaders are not ghosts. They were once seated like us here before we appointed them. So I will say that we can fight corruption in Africa if only if we change our mindset. Number one, let's believe that Africa will work. Africa is going to work. Now, enough of us saying negative things about Africa. Enough of us complaining. The mind does not accept negativity. So if you are saying Nigeria is bad, I don't like Nigeria, or I don't want to be in this country, you're prophesying negative things into your nation, and the nation will continue to be bad, because that is what you're saying. But it is high time for us youth to change our mindset and start saying positive things into whatever spheres of life we find ourselves. Thank you.
I'll also add up to what she says. Another way to fight corruption is basically to speak out. Speak out loud. I'll give you an example. Like in Kenya, they were doing the standard gauge railway, and somebody was pocketing the money and was benefiting from this project. So what we did as youth, we started demonstration, in the sense that this demonstration was supposed to be positive in a way. So what we did, we went out, we started telling this politician that enough is enough, we don't want this, we need to move together as a group.
Sorry, I'd like to add, sir. Another thing we need to start using is social media. Like, I have a friend who's is in social media, and there's a particular leader that's very corrupt, and he was telling him to do some certain things. Now, the guy posted some pictures, and this guy called him that he was going to give him like probably $20,000. And this guy said, no, that you've done something wrong. I need to expose you to the whole world that you are a corrupt leader. So enough of us using our social media pages to post pictures. I'm in Miami, I'm enjoying myself. We can use this tool as a social change. We can actually call these people to book. If we are exposing our leaders, they will sit together and do the right thing. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Bill. My question has to do with how do you keep a broad spectrum of people involved in the change process. So I was a teacher in Gulu, Uganda, in 2011, and one of the local politicians, young, dynamic, charismatic man, but he was frustrated by what he called the 2-3-4 dilemma. Once a couple gets 2 children, a 3-room house, and a 4-wheel drive vehicle, they drop out of the politics change. They're like, we got it made. So I think maybe this is a global characteristic, not an African characteristic, but I'd like to know if you observe that, and if so, how would you react to that to make things better?
So that's another good question, but I think largely we've spoken to that in earlier presentations. Basically, what you identified is one of the problems, and that problem should be now, because I believe sometimes you need to be provoked about the situation you are in to get the change you need. Without that, it becomes difficult. So once clearly we are all coming to that middle ground that we need to change, I believe it's enough. The realization alone that change should happen is enough. But we're also minded by the fact that change is a process. It's not an event. So it won't happen today or tomorrow. It might take time, but you start incrementally doing it, one day at a time, and we'll get there, knowing very well that others have done it. I said in my presentation that in the 1940s, the Singapores of this world, the Malaysians of this world, the Taiwans, the Indonesians of this world were at the stage Ghana, Africa is in at the moment, with right leadership and putting in place the right policies and all of that. And the fight against corruption, again, I forgot to add the issue of putting in place the right legislation, because you might have, that personal example, but you need laws to change mindset. You need laws to fight corruption. So what are the laws you put in place? In Ghana, for instance, we have the public procurement law. So you know that to procure anything for the country, there is a process. You don't go into sole sourcing just at the say-so of anybody. So yes, you put some of these laws in place, and currently the discussions around corruption is to even make it a treasonable offense. So people will abhor corruption when they see it. So that's where we want to get to. And it dovetails into the point you made, that how then do we make sure that this change would capture almost everybody on the continent? I believe the awareness is a good way to start, letting the people be conscious of the situation they are in, the problems they are in, and what we can do to get out of where we are is the best way to go about this. Yes.
If you have the mic in your hand and you've asked a question, pass the mic. And other question?
I'll go ahead and ask a question. Actually, I'll start with a comment, and that is that there are a remarkable number of countries that exhibit the cumulative pushback that you folks are looking for social change. A lot of the politics in this country revolve around pushback against a lot of social change over time from various perspectives and entrenched interests. You're seeing that of course, in North Africa, they had their uprisings and there was tremendous pushback. But I feel like the African political and social scene seems to be more infirmate and more flexible than actually goes. I'm hopeful. But especially Mesturah, who's working with women's empowerment, I have a question in the sense that does she have any, has she sort of pooled all the smarts of her women friends to sort of, you're going to run into a lot of resistance from men, because all social change in the short run involves some losers, and to a great extent that's a lot of the men in your society. And you don't necessarily have to let the secret out about how you're doing this end run around but it's useful to have a strategy, and as one of you actually do, other than getting the women excited about the potentials for empowerment, but actually to diffuse the resistance from men.
One of the things that I do is to share my story. Now, I was raped twice, and I was involved in domestic violence. And this kind of motivated me to start what I'm doing. So I tell people about my story, then people also share that, oh, this person is doing this, she can help you. So that's one of the ways why these women come to me, then I work with them. Also, I go to rural communities to inform them, to empower them, to teach them, to train them on how they can get out from domestic violence. I also build their self-confidence and also give them skill acquisition. Take, for example, I'm a carpenter. It's not so common for you to find a woman in a male-dominated industry. So telling them that you can do this, you can achieve this, I was from ground level to where I am today because I was able to come out of what I was going through and I faced my fears. So my stories usually motivate them and they are so excited doing carpentry works, calling themselves carpenters, and in the end, we are contributing to the economic growth of Nigeria. Thank you.
To kind of add to that, so 95% of the people who do the laundry, maybe in the laundry business, are women. And for me, of course, we had that setback of why are they going away from home to do the laundry? And the way we tackled that was we showed them that it's sustainable. So in 1 week, if they were making $5, now they are making $80. Now they are buying some things at home. So that is another maybe smart way that you can use to show the men that, hey, I can also contribute and I'm actually making money by working more, and I think this is something that is good for me. So maybe showing them it's sustainable is one other way to break that barrier between them refusing and not.
Thank you very much. My name is Mohamed Koman. I'm a Washington Fellow from Liberia. And I'm one person I agree with Professor Paul Lumumba that Africa is not poor, but Africa is poorly managed. Now we identify corruption to be one of the main problems. To start one period dialogue table to identify the problem, find the solution, but yet and still we are not doing anything to solve the problem. And for me, I think one of the main reasons that contribute to corruption is both people on religious land, on tribal land, and on societal land. If I am from a tribe that is, very dominated here, they will celebrate me if I'm corrupt, they will celebrate me to be their own corrupt person, and they will always elect me. So if you come and you are not corrupt, you are straight, you are transparent, they will never select you because you are not a part of them. I think that is one major problem that is keeping our continent backward, and that is making us to always elect corrupt officials. So what are we doing as fellows, say you are on the stage, to change the mindset of these people on the tribal land and on the religious land, and people who find themselves in court in high position and protecting themselves?
Okay, it's a good question, but my answer to that would be simple. I think the change we all seek would begin with us. So you are the first person, to start in your own small corner to effect the change you seek. It's a mindset problem, so we just have to speak to the minds and the hearts of our people to make sure that with time they would go into the ballot box knowing very well that I'm using my thumb to get Mr. A or Mr. B into the presidency. But beyond that, I'm handing over my destiny to him. So a decision about your destiny should not be on tribe, should not be on emotions. It should take serious reasoning. And I think with time we would get there. It's about how we talk to our people. But mismanagement is broad. Corruption is one. I think the decisions we've made as a continent has also gotten us to where we are today. And I'll give an example. When you take cocoa, I said in my presentation that we need to add value to our natural resource. That's the only way we can come out of the quagmire we find ourselves in. If you take cocoa alone, Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire produce more than 60% of the world's cocoa needs. 60%. But we are only price takers. So what happens is we just sell the cocoa beans for money. No value addition. The closest cocoa tree to Switzerland is about 12,000 miles away. But Switzerland produces arguably the world's best chocolates. They have no cocoa, they don't grow cocoa. Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire does so. Unfortunately, because we are price takers, we operate in a $5 billion quadrant. So yes, in the sale of the beans, it's a $5 billion industry. Switzerland and all the other countries who add value to cocoa operate in a $150 billion quadrant. So what would you choose? That you would be a raw material exporter, or you'd rather add value to the raw materials so you can benefit from the 5 billion quadrant and also benefit from the 150 billion quadrant. So I think, yes, beyond corruption, these are some of the decisions we need to take to make sure that we move our continent from a third world continent to a first world. And it's just cocoa. I mean, I've not talked of gold, I've not talked manganese, I've not talked timber, but we just cut all of those. And it's partly also because of a colonial legacy, because African countries in colonial days were built. I mean, the rail system was developed just to cut natural resources away. So we need to rethink, reorient ourselves, and make sure that we take hold of our destiny, add value to our resources. That is the only way we can come to the table.
So I mean, I'll look at maybe where it is working. Rwanda is a good example. The president is very strict about corruption. They will take you to jail if you're corrupt, and the whole system is online now. They are able to track what is happening, and he wants to get to cashless. So Rwanda is going to be a very good model to learn from. The change has been in the last few years. You can tell. I'm much more practical when it comes to corruption. I think we each have a place to play, and if you can change as fewer people as you can in your business, in your market, then it contributes to the whole. Then can we get a seat to the table and change things? Because it is much harder to get a seat on the table than changing things from the outside.
Today we're out of time, so I want to ask one very important question, a quick question to each of the panelists, and it's this. What are you most excited about personally right now? Tabitha?
To empower people.
So I'm excited 80% of Ugandans are below the age of 30, meaning all these guys will be able to use my product in the next 5 years. That excites me so much. Because they'll not ask for a feature phone, they'll be asking for a smartphone. No one wants to buy the feature phone anymore.
I am excited about where Africa is now. I'm excited that we are the youngest, we have the youngest population in the world. I'm excited that it presents opportunities, and I'm excited that we would take the right decisions to move us to the next level.
Wow, what excites me most was when Hillary Clinton came out to contest, even though she didn't win. I was excited that at last women have voice. Whether she win or not, I'm so excited, and she has also led the pace that regardless of what continent we are, women can actually run for the post of presidency. Thank you.
On behalf of Star Show San Diego and the Big Story Formula and Consulting, I want to thank everyone for allowing us to help our core mission of getting small organizations to get big stories heard. I want to leave everybody with one thought, and it's this. It's a quote that's most often attributed to Arthur Schopenhauer, who was a German philosopher who died in 1860. And he's most often quoted with the idea that truth goes through three phases. First, it is ridiculed, then it is violently opposed, and it is self-evident. In other words, that's a stupid idea. It'll never work. We have to stop it. Of course, that's how it's done. And it's social, technical. Women should be allowed to vote. Stupid idea that'll never work. If we vote women, they'll be emotional. They'll elect emotional leaders and make emotional. The world will end. And of course, everybody knows that's not true. It's the same with cell phones, same with things like that. So as we move forward with these leaders, just plan that fact that even if it's dire now, people will oppose it, but eventually it becomes self-evident. I'll turn it back to Andy, and thank you very much.
first thing I should say, if there's any Belgians in the room, we apologize for the Swiss chocolate line there. I just wanted to come up quickly. Thank you so much for coming. There is time to mingle outside and just really end on the note that you can see what we're so passionate about at the Kroc School, that leadership for women's empowerment, leadership for youth empowerment, leadership for anti-corruption, leadership to build Africa's next generation of great businesses. They're all learning from each other, and it's all of these same leadership skills we need to solve the most difficult problems in the most difficult places around the world.